everybody, welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Pete's behind the camera. It's budget week. I hope you're not budgeted out because I want to say a few things about it, but you can't ignore in budget week the budget. And it is interesting because there are some lessons, some salutary things that we should make note of. But the birthdays, before we do anything else, May the 11th, happy birthday, happy wedding anniversary if it's a day of celebration for you. 1813 was the year in Australia. William Lawson, Gregory Blaxland and William Wentworth lead an expedition westward from Sydney. Now this was, in the day, I guess it would have been equivalent to going to the moon or climbing Mount Everest, because there was this great big barrier between the settlement of New South Wales, or the settlement of Sydney, and the wider country. A great barrier called the Blue Mountains. No one had ever crossed the Blue Mountains. Nobody knew what was on the other side. Some thought it was an inland sea. Others thought it would be a great, wonderful pasture, great farmland. The latter was, of course, right. They led an expedition westward from Sydney. Their route opens up inland Australia for continued expansion throughout the 19th century. A remarkable achievement. Lawson, Blaxland and Wentworth in all the history books. 1813. The waltz was introduced in ballrooms in England, some observers saying that it was disgusting and immoral. Oh dear. I guess it's all about the time, isn't it? What would they have made of Jerry Lee Lewis doing Great Balls of Fire? God knows. God knows. Tel Aviv is the first all-Jewish municipality. 1921, Irish actor Richard Harris releases, strangely, a song. He was not a singer, but he releases MacArthur Park, a multi-million-dollar seller in just about every country in the world. Went for, I think it must have been about 8 minutes or 9 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Had this amazing guitar bridge in the middle of it. I must play that. I used to take that when I was doing radio. We'd take that little bridge out of the middle and have it as a grab, as a little musical interlude. Ah yes, MacArthur Park. Someone left the cake out in the rain. None of it made any sense, but I suppose it depends, I suppose, on what you've been indulging yourself in. Was that really 1968? Golly. Okay. The British comedy troupe Monty Python, they come together and make history. I think everybody loves Monty Python. I don't think it would work today, but again, probably a little bit like Peter Sellers' first movie, which was before that, but it was called the Running, Jumping, Standing Still picture. Did you ever see it? Silent movie. You've got to be a little crazy. Andrew Carnegie donates $1.5 million to build a peace palace in 1904. The first Messerschmitt 109F, it was, shot down over England on this day in 1941. It was a great aeroplane, but it was not as manoeuvrable as the Spitfire. Spitfire was the best thing that ever flew. And like the E-Type Jaguar, the prettiest plane you could imagine. Not that planes have to be pretty, I suppose. Siam renames itself Thailand, and that was in 1941. The King and I, the King of Siam. Siamese twins. And why are they called Siamese twins, I wonder? Interesting. Israeli soldiers capture Adolf Eichmann in Buenos Aires in 1960. Frank Thring, the Australian actor, he was in El Cid, he was in Ben-Hur. He was the first, really, apart from Errol Flynn, I suppose, he was the first big Australian star to make it overseas. And I remember, did a lot of stuff in Australia. I remember his appearances on Graham Kennedy's show, which is outrageous at the best of times, but more so when Frank Swing was on. He was a big man. Big is not the word. Bloated? I don't know. Anyway, you'd never get away with the sort of things that happened when he was on the show. You know, he'd do a skit and he would say, "Bring me another boy, this one is broken." You know, could you imagine? He was an outrageous homosexual. But in the day, everyone laughed. Everyone laughed. But you can't go back and change the past, can you? More than 170 countries agree to extend the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty indefinitely without condition to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. I don't know why North Korea ended up with them. I don't know why China ended up with them. I don't know why Russia, oh yes I do, they stole all the secrets. Stole them or bought them. Speaking of stealing secrets, Kim Philby, British spy and Soviet mole, who was a member of the Cambridge Five, dies at 76. That was in 1988. It's amazing how many of those people came out of illustrious places of learning in the UK only to want to destroy it. I mean, the whole country or the system. John Lennon says his phone is being tapped by the FBI. That was in 1972. Why would they bother? Why would they bother? Irving Berlin, great songwriter. Irving Berlin, Russian-American composer and lyricist, considered one of the great songwriters in all history. He wrote God Bless America. Wonderful piece of music. He wrote White Christmas. He wrote Cheek to Cheek. He was born in the Russian Empire, Belarus. That was in 1888. He died in 1989. Great man. And Phil Silvers, one more, American comedian and actor, Sergeant Bilko, Phil Silvers Show, born Brooklyn. He died in 1985, but he was born 1912. Anyway, as I say, if you're having a birthday, happy birthday. Happy wedding anniversary. It's a day of celebration. Good. Now, we've got to talk about the budget, haven't we? Are you budgeted out? Well, the budget. You would have heard everything by now, I suspect. A clever budget? A solid budget? The word responsible was kicked around a lot. This is the Treasurer's second budget. He joins an exclusive club of treasurers who actually have delivered a surplus. The big question is, what will it do to or for inflation? Not a bean for Middle Australia. This is, of course, Middle Australia is the engine room of the economy. There's nothing for business. In my opinion, the budget should reward people for hard work and encourage others to get a job, of which, of course, at the moment there are many. That would be great for the bottom line as well. More people working, more tax receipts. $14 billion to be spent to ease the cost of living. $14 billion will go to 5 million lower income earners and 1 million small businesses. Well, perhaps if electricity wasn't so expensive, that wouldn't be necessary. Lots of money for Medicare and bulk billing. The first, well, when I say, look, gee, there will never be enough money for Medicare or bulk billing. Let me get that in there. The other thing that I noticed too, for the first time, we have a biosecurity tax on our farmers. I don't know what they think of that. This is to protect Australia from dangerous imports. Many of those imports are in fact in open competition with our farmers. I don't get that. I don't know that the farmers will get that either. $4 million to be spent on stopping NDIS fraud. Now, does it really cost $4 million to open your eyes? NDIS growth will be held to 8% a year. For God's sake, why? How can it grow 8%? Do you mean the fraud is going to grow 8%? Well, I suppose anything's better than the current 14% that it's growing, I guess. Thank you, Julia Gillard. Thank you. Saw some stuff from Adam Brandt on the budget. I don't get that guy. I think he's disgraceful. He doesn't like anything. Doesn't like anyone. Well, it's a democracy. That's fine. Okay. A lot of people seem to get him. I don't know. A lot more money for Aboriginals. 1.9 billion on top of the 35 billion that is already wasted, or largely wasted. And I don't mean on the people, I mean it's wasted because it's soaked up by the Aboriginal bureaucracy, the industry. A brief surplus before we go back to deficit. Now, the brief surplus is thanks to our commodities, and that is, in other words, our miners. And I guess to a certain extent our farmers who've had a pretty good year, by and large. But still, it's been 15 years since we've had a surplus, so the government should get a big tick for that. But you must remember, an extra 40 billion has been taken in tax, that's personal income tax and corporate tax, since last October, which is quite a whack. The budget is based on 1.2% growth in productivity. Now, we haven't seen much productivity in years. The government should do a lot more to encourage productivity, not just measure it. On the ABC, I heard something interesting. A woman was complaining that there was no money spent on women's sexual health. Why would the taxpayer be spending money on anyone's sexual health? Why is the government paying for childcare for people earning up to $500,000 a year? Oh, God, where do I start with all of this? Too many public servants? Yep. Yet there's money in this budget to hire another 11,000 public servants. And there's no ban on consultants, so they're having a bit each way. But I've always thought, you know, you have the consultants or you have the public service. What's the point in having both? In short, I think we've got a situation where too much spending and too many overheads. Too much months left over at the end of the money, if you like. Now, I know they need money, and they're looking in all sorts of places, but still they won't tax the $200 billion a year not-for-profits. Many of them are multi-billion-dollar sporting businesses. Now that's nuts. There's lots of focus on, obviously, as I said before, the cost of living. So they pump more money into green stuff, green energy, decarbonisation, whatever that is. You know, we can't live without carbon. We wouldn't exist without carbon. And remember, the most successful economies in the world are building coal-fired power stations hand over fist using our coal. I don't get it. You see, these people don't have an eye on anything other than their ideology. Left-wing green ideology. That's the filter through which they run everything, I think. But that's okay. This is a democracy. They were elected. They deserve a go at doing things the way they seem to think they should be done. But you must see how stupid all of this is. Expensive electricity to reduce global emissions. It's one planet. Now think about this. It's one planet. We can't burn our coal, but everyone else can. It all goes into the same atmosphere. Nothing is achieved. They burn it or we burn it. They get the benefit or we get the benefit. God, it's our coal. Everything is more expensive because electricity is more expensive. The government don't suffer. They profit from the sale of our coal and tell us to be green. Yeah. Yet Australia contributes just 1.3% of global emissions, which is nothing. If we don't understand all of this, it's just plain stupid of us. Understanding, of course, is one thing. But how do we stop it? I don't know. I want to read you a little something, because whenever you see a big deal like the federal budget, I think about other people in other places, in other times, who've come up with things that I think a bit smarter. Abraham Lincoln is one of my favourites. These are the sort of 10 principles by which Abraham Lincoln thought governments should run a country. I want to read these to you if I can. You cannot bring about prosperity by discouraging thrift. You cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. You cannot help the wage earner by pulling down the wage payer. You cannot further the brotherhood of man by encouraging class hatred. You cannot help the poor by destroying the rich. You cannot establish sound security on borrowed money. You cannot keep out of trouble by spending more than you earn. You cannot build character and courage by taking away a man's initiative and independence. And you cannot help men permanently by doing for them what they could and should rightfully do for themselves. Very small printing, ladies and gentlemen, and hard to read. But every once in a while I read that because I think there is such great truth, such great wisdom in what he said there. Just 10 principles, sound principles. Thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your company. Believe in yourself. Pete and I will be back tomorrow. See you then. Hi everybody, end of the week, ladies and gentlemen, and the Court of Public Opinion in session once again. Pete behind the camera. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for so many people finding us as a podcast, as well as here on Facebook in the garage, where you can see what's going on, but you can listen to us anytime you like. And I find it amazing that, you know, those little things. Pete, what do you call those things that you have in the house and you say, hey Google?
Well, I don't know what you call those things. They're amazing.
They are.
Google Nest.
Google Nest. Yeah. You know, you say, hey Google, play Jeremy Cordeaux's Court of Public Opinion, and it comes up with the latest edition. Amazing. Just amazing. So thank you for all those people who say that and tune in. But before we get into the stuff of the day, May 12, 1918, Abel Hoadley. Good name, isn't it? Abel Hoadley. Abel Hoadley, Australian confectioner. He dies at 73. He invented the violet crumble bar.
God bless him.
God bless him! Ah, lovely. The violet crumble bar, which is now being made here in Adelaide. I don't know, they got the rights to make it here. The men's company here in Adelaide now make the violet crumble bar. William Wilberforce makes his first major speech on abolition in the UK House of Commons, reasoning the slave trade was morally reprehensible and an issue of natural justice, 1789. Well, it probably went on for quite some time after that as well. But it's got to start somewhere, the abolition of something, I mean. Homer Simpson the character from the long-running television show, was born in Springfield on this day in 1956. You ever watch that? No?
No, not a fan.
Tony?
No.
No, I don't. Christian does, and Caroline does from time to time, but I don't. No.
Prefer South Park.
South Park. I mean, that's The Simpsons on steroids, isn't it? Oh, God. No. Television ain't what it used to be. English Baron. This is 1215. Serves an ultimatum to King John, which eventually leads to the creation and the signing of the Magna Carta. Now that's a red letter day. Wow. 1215. The Magna Carta. Katharine Hepburn, American actress. Adam's Rib on Golden Pond, born 1907. She died in 2003. That's a good long life. Wireless radio broadcasting is patented by Nathan B. Stubblefield. Or is it Stubblefield? Stubblefield. Tony, ever heard of him?
No.
That was in 1906. Wireless radio broadcasting. Wow.
Marconi.
What happened to Marconi? Good question. 2020, Wuhan. The epicenter of COVID-19 outbreak draws up plans to test 11 million residents after it records a new cluster of 8 cases, which was just the tip of the iceberg. Burt Bacharach, the wonderful Burt Bacharach, was born in 1928 on this day. Grammy Award winner, Academy Award winner, a composer of great music. I'll Never Fall in Love Again, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Promises, Promises. He was born in 1928. American songwriter Burt Bacharach and Hal David receive the Library of Congress Gershwin Award at the White House in Washington, D.C. on this day in 2012. He died? When did he die? I don't think he's alive at the moment, is he? I'll check up on that. I think he's gone to God. American-English actress Elizabeth Taylor, 27, marries for the 4th time American entertainer Eddie Fisher. Eddie Fisher, he was 30, she was 27. They divorced in 64, but married in 59. Elvis Presley appears on a Frank Sinatra television special. Elvis sings Sinatra's 1957 Cy Coleman hit, which was called Witchcraft, and Frank performs Presley's 1956 classic of Love Me Tender. I would love to have heard that. He would have probably done it extremely well, too. Yep. And the coronation of King George V of Great Britain. And, of course, other realms. 1937 was the year. Westminster Abbey, London. Anyway, if you remember the day, I hope it's going to be a happy day of celebration for you. And speaking of things royal, the coronation, which still lingers on delightfully. A sidelight to the coronation is it now seems to be a thing to lip read. Yes, you heard me correctly. Lip read what the royals are saying in private. They've got people who can lip read with binoculars. And apparently in the carriage, King Charles was complaining that William was late. See, all these royal watchers and followers are scrambling around looking for a new and different angle. Well, this is it! Lip reading! Charles was complaining that William was late. And there was one other interesting piece of stuff. They trained their binoculars on Harry. I guess it's no surprise. Harry was complaining about his family. What else? Of course he was.
Through the feelings of
Oh dear, yes. Tony Denton says the feelings are mutual. Anthony Albanese, back from the coronation, speaking of the coronation, says a move to the Republic is not a priority for his government. Now, I can understand him saying that after being close to not only the occasion of the coronation, but the king himself. They seem to really get on pretty well. By all accounts, he's quite a remarkable and good man, the king. When you think of all the leaders of all the other countries, in all the other parts of the world, you would realize that a benign, kind, royal family, which doesn't get involved in politics, is a really very good safeguard against the sort of thing that we see in Africa and South America every day, and yes, in other places as well. I've said it many times, I think we have lucked into a pretty good, if not perfect, system. As I said the other day, the coronation was a fantastic occasion, but so too was the concert. And they both rated very well in Australia. That's the variety program that they had. God knows how they put together such a brilliant, brilliant program. I'm only sorry, looking at the gala, coronation gala, beautifully produced, beautifully photographed, beautifully recorded. I'm only sorry Dame Edna Everage wasn't there. She would have loved it, and I'm quite sure she would have been invited. She was probably going to be invited to the coronation, because shortly before Barry died, the king rang him personally at St Vincent's private hospital in Sydney. So I'm sure he would have got an invite to the coronation. He would have stolen the show, of course, as he did every time he appeared. And speaking of Dame Edna and Barry Humphries, Melbourne never deserved to have the memorial service or the state funeral for Barry. They treated him very badly. See, he never liked any of that woke stuff. He hated all of that. And he told them so. Told me so too. He was a conservative. And he would have not gotten on terribly well with the Andrews regime. I can guess that. The budget, just reflecting a little bit more, mind you, you've probably been budgeted out by now. $650 billion is what we're talking about in round terms. But what shocked me to know that 95% of things that the government sign up to turn out to be a total waste of money. I pricked my ears up when I heard that. We are overcharged, we are rorted, we are manipulated, all presumably with the blessing of the government and the public service. Scary stuff. All this truth, all this stuff that's going on at the moment about people booing at football games, cheering and booing. I mean, isn't that really part of football? Not allowed to go to a football game and boo? Football is about tribalism, isn't it? Heroes and villains. It's about also, on the bigger stage, freedom of speech. Suck it up, sunshine, is what I'd say. These people are paid about $1 million a year. $1 million a year. So soft are they that they can't stand a bit of criticism, a bit of booing? It's not necessarily even criticism, it's just the fans having a bit of fun. Turn around and give them the finger if you want to, but don't run to mama and complain. They hurt my feelings and take me to the safe room God, for heaven's sake, what are we breeding here? The footballers should be surely tougher than that. Now, I won't name the current affairs program. I'm not going to give those people any more oxygen than they deserve, which is very little. But the other night they were talking about job seeker. Job seeker. Where did this mentality come from? It is called job seeker. People are meant to seek a job. This is money given to people who are actively looking for work, aren't they? The whole angle of this journalist's story was that the recipients of job seeker should be getting a lot more money because they couldn't live on it. What is it these days? I think it's about $50 a day or something, but more now that the budget has changed that. Not by a great deal, but they have increased it. But the thing is, the money is not there to be lived on. It's there to be survived on. You know, the whole welfare thing, I think, is just crazy. We shouldn't have, with the number of people who are looking for workers, the number of people we have out of work. We should really have, looking at the figures, we should have negligible, if any, unemployment. It is official, at least according to the court. Donald Trump is a sexual predator. Whether he's going to be named that or not, I don't know. The accusation was that he raped a woman in a department store change room in broad daylight with hundreds of people around. And then calmly, presumably, they walk out together, none the wiser. This was a civil court which found him guilty, not guilty of rape, but guilty of sexual assault. And of course, defamation, because he ultimately, when confronted with all of this, called her a liar. The court has awarded the lady $5 million, which is about 7 million Australian dollars. The Donald has denied that he ever saw her, knew her, ever been with her, and he's going to appeal this decision. I guess people on a jury can't ask questions, but if I'd been there, I would have wanted to know how the alleged rape could have occurred in broad daylight, in public. No one saw, no one heard, no one screamed. I mean, for God's sake, there'd be thousands of people, no, well, not thousands, hundreds of people around. Help me, I'm being raped, help me. When did you, the victim I mean, report the event? How quickly after it? I mean, if it happened, something like that happened to me, it would be within seconds. No, I wasn't on the jury, and no, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But on the surface, and without any evidence, I would not have found Donald Trump guilty. He is going to appeal, but I wonder really what effect it's going to have on his presidential campaign. Probably none. But it's just another one of these cases where the lawyers have a very expensive, luxurious picnic. We'll watch it with interest. The whole Donald Trump thing is a piece of reality television, from top to bottom. And it was from the very beginning, ever since he did that thing which was called The Apprentice, or whatever it was. Yeah. Thousands of people from Sudan continue to flow into South Sudan, or Sudan, whichever you call it, which of course has its own trouble. The army continues to run wild, or a faction of it. They call themselves the Rapid Response Force, I believe. They're literally walking into people's homes, taking all their possessions and throwing the people onto the street. They are looting medical equipment, drugs, food, supplies. It's a total disgrace. And where is the United Nations? The policemen of the world. That's what they're paid to do. We pay them about $100 million a year as our contribution to keep the world safe and secure. But nothing. Do you hear a single word from the United Nations about the atrocities that are going on there? I have a feeling that if Sudan was still a colony of Great Britain, as it was for many, many years, Great Britain and Egypt, I think it was, they shared that area called Sudan, but it was not south, it was the whole country. I don't think if Great Britain was still there, you'd see any of this nonsense, the looting, the murder, the pain, the suffering, streets littered with corpses. And this is in the middle of a ceasefire, a complete collapse of society, a total lawless country. And it hasn't been stable, ladies and gentlemen, since 1956 when, you guessed it, they became an independent republic. It's a wonderful country. It really is a beautiful country.